The voice and vocabulary of the wild turkey is oftentimes a misused and misunderstood tool for the modern-day turkey hunter. Containing over 25 different vocalizations, the wild turkey's vocabulary can confuse any hunter as he tries to communicate with spring gobblers. The sound of spring is not the final word on a very detailed subject. It is simply a collection of insights and tips of some of the nation's top callers and hunters. Enjoy.
Hello, I'm Terry Drury, and welcome to the Sound of Spring. If you enjoyed some of the sounds that you just heard, then you're in for a real treat. You know, some of the sounds were man-made, but many of the sounds were made by the real McCoy. The funny thing is, it's sometimes very hard to tell the difference, which is one of the many reasons that Mark and I have decided to put together an abbreviated version of a video dictionary of the wild turkey. To provide the definitions for our dictionary, we've assembled a well-versed team of hunters as well as callers. They include the North American champion as well as a two-time Missouri State champion from Hillsboro, Missouri, Drew Jones. Also with us, we have the Midwest Friction champion and a 15-year veteran of the woods and the calling circuit from Willow Ridge, Missouri, Mr. Keith Wally. Also joining us is a 20-year veteran of the woods who has placed in over 75 contests from Fenton, Missouri, Stevie Stoltz. And we're real proud to have this gentleman with us. He's the two-time Grand National Owl Hooting champion, as well as the Texas State Open champion, a 15-year veteran of the woods from Festus, Missouri, Mr. Jeff Probst. You know, joining us a little bit later on, we're going to have two very good friends of Mark and mine, Mr. Randy Panic from Ludlow, Massachusetts, and Dale Dinker Whippler from right here in Bloomsdale, Missouri. I'm real proud to introduce the next gentleman. He's the two-time World Natural Voice Champion, going for the third time this year, my brother, Mark Drury.
Thanks a lot, Terry. And like I always say, get ready, because we're coming to you with the sound of spring. Tree yelp. Low, soft, guttural yelp, commonly used at early morning light while turkey is still on roost. If that doesn't sound like an early spring morning, I don't know what does. Excellent examples of early morning tree yelps. Drew and Dinker, I want to know what part of the hunt that the tree yelp plays for each of you.
Well, I myself like to use a tree yelp early in the morning on a gobbler who's still on the roost. I don't want to overcall to that gobbler and hang him up on the roost. I just want to let him know that a hen is in the area.
That's right, Drew. You don't want to call too loud to him. You want to let the gobbler find your location, then let him make the first move. Let him come to you.
I kind of like to look at it as a way to open up a conversation with the gobbler.
Right.
And feel him out, find out how fired up he is,
Right.
and then go from there. This exceptional footage was filmed by our good friend with Mossy Oak Camouflage, Bob Dixon. Here's an interesting piece of footage. Note that the soft yelp or tree yelp can be given at any time of the day. This hen's already on the ground. Obviously, the response here shows its effectiveness. While we're on the subject of tree yelping, we're going to take you on a hunt where tree yelping helped us out. We were successful in harvesting this bird down in the Shawnee National Forest of Illinois. Joining me on the hunt, I had Joe Sexhire, a good friend of mine from Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Joe's a competitive caller, and this bird was kind of special to Joe. It was the first bird that he was able to harvest in the 1990s, which, by the way, made 4 decades. He killed birds in the late 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Mark.
And
Nice
tell
to
us
be here.
a little bit about what calls you used to get this bird in.
Well, when he first gobbled, Mark and I were lucky. The woods were crowded, and the bird was right below us off the hillside. So we immediately set up and tried a subtle approach to the bird with tree yelps. That way we figured we're close enough the bird could hear us and other hunters wouldn't hear us calling and get in on the action because the bird didn't gobble very often.
All right, well, give us a quick example of what you did to the bird on the left.
Okay.
I notice you continued to soft yelp all the way up until the time that you killed the bird. Why is that?
Well, he was coming, and if it's working, don't fix it. You know, he was
Right.
coming, so it was working, so we just stayed with that
And he
approach.
came right
and he
in.
came right in.
Let's go to it and take another look at it.
Get it?
Cluck and purr, soft, contented type of call commonly used while feeding. Listen closely. These soft calls are actual examples of hen turkeys clucking and purring. Here's an example of a gobbler clucking a turkey. It shows that all turkeys give this call, not just the hens. We're going to take the next few seconds and talk about contentment type calling, specifically the cluck and purr. Keith and Steve, where's it fit in at?
Mark, I like to give the cluck and purr when a gobbler's within 50 or 60 yards and just out of range, and give it to him to kind of ease his mind and let him know a hen is close, feeding and purring and clucking.
Well, define it for us, Keith. What are you saying to that gobbler when you're giving that cluck and purr?
I'm saying this is a hen turkey, okay? I'm ready. Here I am. This puts the icing on the cake for me.
It's more or less of a feeding call.
Exactly.
It shows that everything's all right. Now, let's give a quick example of it, mouth
Okay.
calls and slate calls. Sounds fantastic. It's interesting to note, though, that turkeys do that nearly 90% of the time that they're on the ground. They're constantly feeding, they're constantly giving that little purr, so I don't think you can really purr too much to a gobbler.
No, and Mark, that's a good point. The turkeys, when they purr and cluck, they'll walk along and they're feeding, and it's a soft call, so it's a call you really don't want to give too much until the gobbler's in close. It's a good contentment call, and it's a good call to lure him in that last 20 yards.
Right, sometimes I'll even do some scratching with
Scratching
it.
in the leaves helps too.
Sound more
I
realistic.
use this call in between my mouth yelping almost constantly.
I do the same thing. Let's go to some actual examples of hen turkeys clucking and purring in the woods and listen to how they sound. Cluck, sharp, distinct, popping note, often used as a communicating call to reveal another turkey's position. As you can tell by the definition you just read, the next segment we're going to be talking about just clucking. We're going to start this segment off with a hunt that Terry and I shared down in the Ozark National Forest of Arkansas, early season hunt. Terry, tell us a little bit about what happened.
Here's one of the prime examples of how different callers have different styles. Mark, in this particular instance, decided that he was going to call to this bird after he was already in tight on us, and it just so happened the bird got spooked. He didn't like what he had heard or didn't like what he saw, decided to leave, and it then took us about an hour to get him back in.
Very basic mistake. I should have never called when that turkey was that close. After that, Terry did some clucking, got the bird back in, came in displaying and everything, and then I turned the scene over to Terry, to his expert shooting, and what happened?
All I can say is if he'd have let me shoot when the bird was in the first time, I think I would have harvested this bird.
No, I don't buy that at all. Let's go to it and take a look at it. This was my mistake. The gobbler had already committed and was coming in. I never should have called here. These soft clucks were the change of pace that this gobbler wanted to hear. Don't be afraid to change your calling technique when working a bird that has lost interest.
Sam. Take it. Take it.
Watch to the left of this turkey's head. You'll see where Terry's pattern hit. Nice shot, Terry. Here's some more examples of just clucking, both by callers and hens. Listen to their rhythms and tones. Pay attention to the sharpness and intensity of these clucks. This shows that she is really looking. Yelping, two-tone note, when given in varying successions, can convey different messages. In example, assembly, mating, and lost call. and welcome back to our video dictionary. Our next guest joining us today is Mr. Randy Panic. Randy originates from Ludlow, Massachusetts. He's a staff member of Kelly Callers. He's also a member of the Mossy Oak Hunting Team. Welcome to Missouri, Randy.
Pleasure to be here, Mark.
Glad to have you. Randy and I are going to talk just a little bit about yelping, how you can add realism to your yelping and help you produce more gobblers. Randy, would you give us an example of how you try to yelp in the woods? Those are beautiful, beautiful yelps. I notice you add a lot of pleading quality, some extra aggression in there. Why is that, Randy?
I spend a lot of time trying to get realism in my calling, Mark, and it's pretty important to me. I think that's the key to take that into the woods with you. The realism sometimes will make that difference in harvesting a gobbler.
Especially the aggression that you're putting behind that yelp. You can actually bring a message across to that gobbler that you're trying to work. If you're trying to tell him that you're a receptive hen and you want him where you are, sometimes some soft, seductive yelps don't work. Put some more realism into them, and it can pull that gobbler your way.
If you want something in life, Mark, ask for it, and that's what
right.
we're doing in the woods.
That's exactly right. We've got some interesting pieces on yelping. Let's go to one of them now and notice the aggression these hens put in their yelping.
Stevie, again, you and I went down to the Mark Twain National Forest and were successful in harvesting a bird just as we were last year. I think the hen yelping was the key to our success. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that hunt?
Well, Terry, as you remember, we got in on these gobblers on the same level as they were on. We were hunting an adult gobbler, and we thought that he was the only gobbler in the woods, but little did we know there was 5 young gobblers in between us and where the adult gobbler was roosted.
We sure did. I think you started out with some real soft tree yelps and then got a little more aggressive into your hen yelping. Why don't you give me a sample of that tree yelp? Oh man, does that sound excellent.
After the tree calling, the gobbler answered, and then he shut up. And the silence there for a while made me feel that they were coming out of the limb, which they were. At that time, we only thought it was one gobbler.
Right. You then went into your hen yelping, did you not?
I went into more aggressive calling because I felt that these gobblers were on the ground.
On the ground. All right, why don't you give me a sample of that aggressive hen yelp that you were doing? Oh man, that's all it took. You know, we're talking a lot about aggressive hen yelping. Why don't you take a look at this film and see how it worked for Steve and I in this particular hunt?
As Terry and Steve mentioned in their interview, Steve opens the conversation with some real soft tree yelping. Once they felt certain that the turkeys were on the ground, they became a lot more aggressive with their yelping.
Good shot, buddy. Good job.
Great examples of hen yelps, guys. Those go along with the actual footage of hens yelping that we just watched. I really feel that hen yelping is one of the most important definitions in our entire dictionary. What about you, Jeff?
I agree, Mark. You know, the turkey yelping is the backbone of all turkey language. It's their basic way of communication, just like the three of us carrying on a conversation out in these woods this morning.
They communicate by yelping all the time.
Absolutely.
What part of the hunt do you feel that it plays on?
Well, Mark, I yelp probably 90% of the times while I'm calling turkeys, and I feel you can take just about any turkey yelping.
By yelping.
I agree.
I know it sounds like we're really pounding this home, but it is so very important. Learn how to yelp. We're going to get a little bit more aggressive now. We're going to cutting. Cutting. Rapid series of clucks conveys a strong message of excitement. By the sounds and the tones of that calling, it's easy to see that we're going to get a lot more aggressive during this segment. The calling I'm doing is called cutting. Drew, define it for me.
Well, to me, cutting is the most excited that a hen can get. She's really at the peak of her mating, and she really desires that gobbler to come in. And I think the problem is a lot of people confuse cutting with cackling, which I feel is highly overrated. I would much rather cut.
Well, give me an example of cackling then. cackling. Give me some cutting, Steve. You prefer the cutting. I myself prefer to cut rather than cackle. What about you, Steve?
I prefer the cutting, and I also prefer yelping with the cutting. I think it throws a little bit more excitement to that cutting.
But the main thing I noticed about everybody's examples is there's a lot of aggression there. That's the time, if ever there was a time, to pour that extra bit of aggression on.
Right. You got to pour the cutting on, pour it to him, because a gobbler, he hears that cutting and he knows that hen is ready to be bred, and that's what makes him gobble and makes him respond.
Okay, what time of the day do we use it? When does it best work, Drew?
I have used cutting any time of day. Since I learned how to use it, it has really changed.
And good results, one and all, right? How about you,
It's
Steve?
a good locating call. You can walk out any time in the morning, at noontime, or if you can hunt in the evening in your state, you can cut an hour before dark and get an answer with cutting.
Let's go to the film right now. Listen to the actual hens cutting. Listen to the aggression that they put into their calling. Toxie Hayes, the inventor of mossy oak camouflage, joined Terry and me for this early morning hunt. The excited cuts and yelps we gave this turkey had him off of the limb and in front of us just seconds after daybreak. Once we had seen the turkey and knew that he was coming to us, we ceased calling. We did not want to hang him up, especially in this open area. In this case, it worked. The turkey comes all the way in at 8 steps. Randy, how much does cutting play a part in your hunting?
It's a very important part to me, Mark, because it's a very excited call, and a lot of times that's just a key that'll spark that gobbler in a late morning hunt. Or when you have a bird hung up, you hit a little cutting to him, a little excited calling like that, and it just might be the convincer.
Exactly. You know, I truly believe that when a gobbler gobbles, he is at his highest level of excitement. I think that when a hen cuts, she is at her highest level of excitement. I have had hens coming in, just yelping and clucking, and go to that cutting and actually get her fired up and start cutting herself.
Have you ever noticed sometimes, Mark, when you'll have another hen start cutting to your cutting, how you'll hear sometimes 2 or 3 other gobblers in the woods open up that you haven't heard before?
It is a super, super call.
Yeah.
Gobbling, the sole reason why countless hours are spent in the woods each spring. Marriages have been tested, jobs are pushed aside, and longtime hunting companions become bitter enemies. Is it worth it? You bet. Not hard to see what we're trying to portray. We're doing some examples of gobbling. We're going to take a little time to talk about gobbling. Keith, where does it fit into your hunt? Is it safe? Have you used it successfully?
Well, Mark, in the past I have, but nowadays there's so many hunters in the woods, I would stay away from the gobble.
Especially on public grounds. Drew, give us an alternative. That when we gobble, we're trying to get the bird that we're working to come over because another gobbler's moved in. Is there anything else we can do besides gobbling?
Well, what also works very well is to do the yelp of a young gobbler, or any subdominant gobbler that's in the area will bring that gobbler in.
Okay, let's hear an example of gobbler yelping. Not a great deal difference from hen yelping, but I noticed you slowed the pace down,
right,
deepened it up just a little bit to sound like a gobbler. Something else that I've done and had pretty good success with is done an actual gobbler fight. All the excited purring and clucking that gobblers do when they get in and they start twisting up. Let's give them an example of that. I think the moral of the story is try to stay away from the gobbling. Try the alternatives, gobbler yelping or a gobbler fight.
Stevie, here's another prime example where we cut the rug right out from under them. That cutting worked real well.
Yes, it did, Terry, and I might add, the gobblers came straight away from these two guys who were trying to call the same turkeys.
Hold on.
Wait a minute.
Let's tell the whole story here. What do you think, Dicker?
Well, if I remember right, we set up on this big adult gobbler. I knew he had a voice on him. We were within 75 yards of him, sweet talking him on the limb. Before we knew it, we had these two young gobblers come right in behind us.
And I mean right behind us. Could have taken them at any time. And, you know, Dicker says, go ahead and take them. I thought to myself, no, I'm going to wait, let them grow another year. They'll be a much bigger bird next year. Trophy gobblers the following year, no doubt about it. And I might add, it was a hunt where we had used, you know, all the vocabulary. We had yelped, we had cut, we had
tree called,
everything. And
I never even heard them call, did you?
I just don't recall it happening that way.
I don't think they even called it, and the turkeys were really willing to come in quick away from these guys.
To the excellent calling that you were doing.
No. We've got the proof. All we can do is go to
right,
it.
let's go watch it.
Just watch it. After Dinker and I had located the adult gobbler you just heard, we set up. Only 20 minutes had passed when these two young gobblers appeared.
Take him if you want him. Take him if you want him.
The distant calling you're hearing is Steve and Terry moving in on us. The proof is in the pudding.
Oh, it's right there. It's easy.
There's the footage. The turkeys were there. We chose to pass them. That's all there is to it.
Stevie, the truth of the matter is the camera work may not be quite as good, but the fact of the matter is we were the one that came home with the bird.
You darn right, and them turkeys ran away from them.
No,
it wasn't like
we
that.
had the birds in front of us for 15 minutes. You guys, I don't know. You came in on top
Don't know
of us.
where
There's no
they come
excuse
from.
for it.
As a matter of fact,
There's no
they,
excuse.
You want to...
Listen, what do you want to start from?
Dicker, come on! No, that's enough.
No, it's not a dream. Wait till I tell you. Oh, wait. Yeah, I see him. Now just wait. Keep waiting. Okay, take him. No.
Well, here we are. We brought him back. For those of you that got to see him in King of the Spring, He's back for the Sound of Spring, our favorite hunting partner, Marvin Drury.
How you doing, Uncle?
Hey, just great, guys, just great.
Marvin's got another hunt to share with you. If you saw the King of the Spring, you know that we like to have a little fun when somebody misses on film. Well, we've had a lot of fun with Uncle Marvin over the last couple years. What happened on this hunt, Marvin?
Well, I suppose I have to tell the truth. I'd rather lie about it, but with that camera, I can't. But these birds were coming in to my right. You heard them gobble. Yeah, and I'm just not used to hunting with anyone that's saying, shoot, shoot, shoot. And I just pulled the trigger and missed again.
Why don't we go take a look at this? This is good.
These turkeys were just out of view for the camera. You'll see them fly up as they dodge Marvin's shooting. Well, we're nearing the end of our video dictionary. We've talked about tree yelping and clucking and purring, yelping, cutting, cackling, gobbling, gobbler yelping. Now we're going to talk about a tool that can help the turkey hunter with whatever call he's using. We're going to talk about the use of decoys when you set up on a gobbler and you're calling to that gobbler. Jeff, what are your feelings on using decoys?
Well, Mark, they can definitely be a big advantage to you in certain situations. Bow hunting, areas where you want to set the decoy out to pull a turkey into a certain area to get a shot, just like in King of the Spring on my Illinois hunt. We set the decoys in a little clearing. The turkeys were over the break of the ridge. I'm sure that it helped pull them into the opening where they were hesitant to come out before. And especially in a bow hunting situation, I feel they're really important because it'll take the turkey's attention off the shooter and where you can draw your bow back.
Definitely. That hunt on King of the Spring was down in southern Illinois.
Right.
We had another hunt at the beginning of this tape with Joe Sexar in southern Illinois, and again we used the decoy to pull the gobbler up the hill.
Right.
How about you, Joe? What do you feel about decoys?
Well, for years, I never used a decoy. I hunt in a lot of rough terrain, and I just thought it was something extra to carry along. And the less you carry, the quicker you go. But then comes feather flex. Light as a feather, flexible. I could roll it up, put it in my shirt pocket. They work. I like them. I use them. And they give me confidence. There's a factor there on my end that it's out there.
Right.
And also a confidence factor with the bird. When he sees that bird, he knows it's a bird. And many times I just come right into the decoy.
Without a doubt, extremely effective. This next hunt, I myself have never seen anything like it. We're just going to go to it, let you take a look at it. Look how this gobbler reacts to the decoy. This unbelievable footage was provided to us by our good friends Paul Cascio and Phil Conklin at the Southern Outdoor Network of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The hunt takes place around Hammond, Louisiana, and finds Dave Berkeley of Featherflex Decoys on an early morning hunt.
It just don't get no better than that. I love it, man. I love it. They're headed out towards Pine Grove somewhere. Beautiful bird. What you say, Varner?
Up, down. Shh.
Here is an excellent example of where decoys can really help. This open field setup allows the bird to see the decoys and work right to them. Notice the wind movement on the featherflex decoys. It almost brings them to life. Language of the wild turkey is a very intricate and detailed subject. To cover it in an hour would have been impossible. Talking the language of the wild turkey is an art in itself. We know that the sound of spring will not answer every question on the subject. We do hope, though, that it might help you on your next spring gobbler hunt. There is an old adage that goes, practice makes perfect. This is certainly one place where this is true. Learning the language of the wild turkey, however, may not be the biggest problem that faces us today. Can you remember the last really good stalk that you had? Maybe it was on a whitetail feeding on acorns, or maybe it was on a trophy gobbler strutting in a field, or maybe it was just stalking up on a gray squirrel cutting hickory nuts. Whatever your quarry, your approach was probably the same. Carefully, cautiously, and quietly, you chose each step so as not to alarm the game. Well, my friends and fellow hunters, a new stalk has begun. And again, we find ourselves in a position where we must choose our steps very carefully, for each and every step counts. If we stumble or if we fall, then we have failed. There are those who would like to take away yours and my rights to enjoy the sport that we as sportsmen so dearly love. They are present, they are many, they have the time, they have the financial capability. What I sit here and ask of you is please do not give them the reason. As in the stalking of an animal, we must choose each step carefully. Be ever aware of the influence that our thoughts and actions might have on those who are not of the hunting community. Continue to take steps, but take them in the right direction. Become involved in organizations. Hunt safely. Hunt ethically. Show that we are educated and care about proper game management. Show respect for the game that we are now privileged to harvest. Show respect for the landowner. Only through education and positive actions can we preserve the rights that we now so freely love for future generations. Continue to take steps, but take the right step. If not for yourself, do it for them.
I knew you were going to do that.
That's going on the film too. You're recording.
All right, that's all right.
Ready.
Well, here we are. We brought him back again for those of you that got to see the king of the spring.
Yeah.
Stevie, here's another prime example where we cut the rug right out from under him. The cutting worked real well, didn't it?
Yes, it did, Terry, and I might add, the turkeys came away from me.
This is the second part of the interview.
What interview?
And I want to stress the aggression. Pour it on. If ever there's a time and you're calling to pour it on, now is it. We're going to go now to actual hens cutting, listen to the aggression that they put into their cuts, and just listen. And just, Steve, which would you prefer to do, cutting or cackling?
Oh, I'd much rather cackle, Mark, and
Wait a minute. Try to call.
She's trying to relay a message, Mark, to that gobbler. She wants him. She wants him to come in.
She's trying to relay a message. She wants him to relay.
Start over. Okay, I'm gonna start over. All right?
Okay.
Just a hair more calling.
Sound like Dicker. Dicker's first contest.
Hold it. What's that music over there? I can't get him off. What's your
Dicker, we want this wall on the scene, buddy.
Oh, man.
It's getting lower.
Andrew Jackson Jackson put that there.
Good for Andrew. I tore it down.
Dick happy? Turkeys yelping are just like the three of us sitting here carrying on a conversation. Basic turkey language.
How about you, Dicker?
That was good, Jeff.
Part of the hunt does it play for you, Dicker?
Well, Mark, I yelp probably 90% of the time when I'm in the woods.
Just conveying messages?
Right.
With what?